Hey Silver Senders, on today's video we're going to talk about buying your kids' first mountain bike. As you can see, I have two mountain bikes here. That's because I have twin daughters, one who likes to hit bike parks, jumps, very much enjoys trying to get air, and another who never wants her wheels to leave the ground and is quite happy just doing more flatter cross-country type runs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through, I guess, both bikes, and this isn't a bike review, so we're not talking specs, we're not doing anything, don't worry about what the bike is, just more what it stands for, through both my daughters, so you can kind of understand how your one rides and what bike would be appropriate for them. So we'll start off going through my more extreme daughter's story, if you like. So she enjoys bike parks, she likes jumps, and she just basically likes trying to get air. Now, she started this about 18 months ago, and about 6 months in, my wife and I were having a conversation, and we decided that the most important thing was safety. We knew she was going to crash her bike, so if she did crash it, we wanted her to be the reason and not components failing. So we decided to get something with, quality components. First thing I looked for when we were buying this bike was to make sure it had hydraulic disc brakes, for example, so that at least she could stop. Most important thing. The bit that I really sort of ummed and ahed over was the rear shock. I googled, I searched, you read some people say no, don't bother, it's not worth it, they're not heavy enough, they can't utilise it. You hear others say, oh, my kid loves it, they send it. So a year on, my thoughts are, for the riding that she does, the style that we do, she's not, the features she hits aren't big enough to make much of an impact, and she's not heavy enough to move it. So that shock is running so low in the PSI that there's hardly any sort of rebound, and she's still only, or really slow rebound, and she's still only used half of the travel. Now, I know there are kids on Instagram, there are kids on YouTube, 8-year-olds, we've got an 8-year-old here in Sydney, and he is always on pink bike, he sends it, he hits 4-metre jumps, he hits 6-metre drops, and he needs a full suspension, right? We're not doing things that size, we can't utilise it, and it comes with extra weight. Now the reason the extra weight's been an issue for me is she's finding it much more difficult to sort of manual and wheelie the bike than she did her old one. She couldn't even get the bike off the ground for the first 3 or 4 months when she was jumping the supermarket bike before. So the amount of travel that she uses, the extra weight, and the fact that it's set her back, if I was to do it again, I would buy her a hardtail, but make sure she's got really quality components and a quality air-sprung fork. The reason that the fork's still important is we have obviously come out off the bike a few times. I say my daughter's come off the bike a few times. A couple of times on her wrists, she's had x-rays, and what the doctor was explaining to me is that the bones are really soft when you're at that age. They're not formed properly, they're really easy to damage. So actually, even though she's only used half of the front shock, I'm quite comfortable that that weight's on there, because it just gives her a little bit of protection in her joints when they're still forming. Now the flip side, my other daughter, who doesn't like the wheels to go off the ground, weight's not an issue to her, and she feels more comfortable going over things like the rocks and the gravel and whatever we're on. She feels much more comfortable that the bike's absorbing some of that pressure. So for her, I wouldn't change a thing. That bike's perfect for her. It's got disc brakes, but again, we're not really on anything big or steep. They're cable brakes, so it's fine. The bike is perfect for her. The extra weight's not an issue. She's happy, keeps her safe, keeps her secure. So again, it's not this question of should you have suspension, shouldn't you? It really depends on the riding. Now, if you've got a little one who's trying to get the bike off the ground, the lighter the better, in my opinion. If you've got one who's staying on the ground, got no interest in being up in the air, just wants comfort, but still wants to come on you with those cross-country rides, it's perfect. The next thing to consider is the resale value. They're not on these bikes for long. We've had this one now about a year. Daughter's nearly 10, she's probably only got another 18 months, 2 years on it. Now, I know on these you can swap out to 26-inch wheels. I'm not convinced on what that's going to look like when she's on it and she's a bit older, so we'll see. So I'm still working under the assumption that I'm probably going to have to upgrade the bike in 18 months, 2 years. So you've got to think about what's the resale market and the resale value for the bike that you're selling. Now, I'll give you an example. Why I'm concerned a little bit about the polygons is you see online, right, this bike here, you can buy it, I've seen it listed for 2,300 brand new, right down to, this is Aussie dollars, right down to 1,500 Aussie dollars. So the fact that Polygon do such discounts means that the second-hand market is much more difficult to, I guess, to retain the value that you paid for it, unless maybe you were lucky enough to catch it at that rock bottom 1,500. So maybe a brand like Resale, for example, where you buy the bike for about 2,200 Aussie dollars. If they have a sale, they maybe knock $200 off. It's got a stronger resale value. Look, this is only a short video and I'm going to conclude. There is only really three main things to consider. The style of riding you're doing and whether you're going to need that rear shock to do that weight analysis. The quality of the components. Now both bikes are quality frames, quality components. All right, on this one the components aren't as good, but also the style of riding she's doing doesn't justify hydraulic brakes and all the sort of more premium features. And the last thing to consider, as I say, is just that resale value, because they're going to be off it in a year or two. If you've enjoyed the video, please like or subscribe, and if you've got any questions or any topics you'd like me to cover, leave a message in the comments.